Right, welcome. This is the gentle class for this week. And before we get started, just to make sure you have everything you need, actually a blanket um, may be helpful, not necessary, but it may be helpful to have a blanket. And then if you have a couple of blocks, yoga blocks, or even anything that's going to help lift your hands up a little bit when we're working with lunge. And it could even be two chairs, firm chairs, like kitchen chairs that you have on either side of you. When we get there, I'll show you how we'll use the props. And if you don't have either of those things, don't worry. I can show you ways of doing it that don't need those props. And in fact, the props in some ways make the pose more intense in some ways. So it's not, you're not going to have an issue if you don't have what we'll be using. You can just use your body and the ground. So our theme this week is around the idea of taking steps, of kind of moving out of our comfort zone a little bit. So we've been working over the last few weeks of creating a wider kind of comfort zone, more things that can help bring us back to ease or comfort when we get a little bit triggered or get a little bit tense or stressed. So we have these tools to bring us back. But we don't grow. We don't actually get any stronger or any more flexible or any smarter even, or become better leaders or whatever it is we're trying to do. We don't get better and grow by sitting nestled in our comfort zone, although it's a wonderful place to hang out. If we want to grow, we have to start to bust out a little bit. They come out of our little safe haven. And so to that end, we're going to work with a challenging pose today, but we're going to break it down into many, many, many little steps. And more than likely, none of you will actually do the full pose, myself included. That is not the point. So the point today is really about enjoying the journey and starting, like taking that first step. So I know I get really overwhelmed sometimes when I have a big project to do. And it's taking that first step can be the hardest. And I've been teaching about this today. And on my break at lunch, I looked on Facebook and one of my friends had posted a fortune cookie, the strip, the fortune in the cookie. And it said, start and the rest will follow. And I thought that was a perfect way to sum up what I'm trying to say today. Start, take a step. Okay? You may only take one step. That step might lead you to another step, might lead you to another. It may change directions as you go, but the idea is we need to act and we need to push ourselves a little bit. That said, honor your body, right? If it doesn't feel good to you, pushing yourself is not going to help. You're not going to get more flexible by forcing your body where it doesn't want to go, but by working with it, right? So we push our edges a little bit, but we don't go busting through, right? So we're going to start lying down today. So you can go ahead and get comfortable on your mat, lying on your back, knees bent, and you can rest your hands on your body in one of those holds, one on the belly, one on the chest, either higher or lower, wherever it's comfortable. One of the holds that we looked at a few weeks ago. So you're coming to lie down. Knees bent, feet on the floor. If you like, you can take your feet a little wider, let your knees fall together if that helps you to let the legs balance and there's no need to hold them there, they balance on each other. And then placing your hands wherever they're comfortable on your body, where you can feel a little bit of movement with your breath. So we'll start here with a bit of centering and grounding. And know that wherever we go in today's class, you have a safe route back to a place that feels comfortable, right? You can go at any time to a pose that feels comfortable to you, like child's pose or lying down or sitting. And part of the intention when we move from our comfort zone a little bit is that we know the way back, right? So if we get overwhelmed or we go a little bit too far, we can find our way back. We're not jumping off a cliff, just taking small steps. So grounding, feeling the earth beneath you, Feeling your breath and especially tuning into your exhalation now. Letting go of whatever it was that you were doing before you came to the class and letting yourself tune into this moment. Feel your body. Feel the earth. Feel how the two connect and feel that pressure. Soften and relax into that pressure. So in yoga class, just as in life, we move towards our goals small step by small step, warming up the muscles that we need for our goal today, which is Hanumanasana, a fancy way of saying the splits. And as I mentioned earlier, it's unlikely any of us will actually reach that destination. We're going to enjoy the journey and take little steps along the way. So let's start with just a little bit of easing into movement for the hips and the spine by bringing the knees up in toward the chest and just letting your body move. So maybe it's a little side to side. Maybe you want to draw the knees away and then back towards you, or circle the knees around. So take a moment here, massaging your back against the ground. Right, and then let's come back to the center. And keeping one knee into the chest, extend the other leg straight out on the ground. So this is actually our first step in opening the front of the hip, which will ultimately be the back leg. We're in the splits, the back leg is getting stretched in the front of the leg, and the front leg would be getting stretched in the back of the leg, and we'll get there. So starting that little bit of opening in the hip flexor. This is also a really great stretch if you sit a lot, because when you're sitting, there's a bend here, right? Like when your knees are bent, there's a bend at your hip. And when you're bent sitting all the time, these muscles tend to get a little shorter. So just coming into straightening that leg while you draw the other one in helps to lengthen that part of the body. Let's switch sides. You can bring your foot to the floor, bring the other knee in. You can hold on either over your shin or behind your knee, just according to what's more comfortable for you. And then try extending that leg straight out on the ground, keeping it active. So your heel is pressing down, your toes point toward the ceiling, your thighs engaged. Okay, and then bringing that foot to the ground. Let's bend both knees again. And we'll keep working a little bit with the front and the sides of the hips, just creating some opening in that area. Is a very tight area for many of us. So if you feel restricted in this area, go very slowly. Make your steps even smaller. You can take the arms to the sides here. We're going to take the feet a little apart. So at least hip distance apart, could be slightly wider. And you want to really tune into your knees as well. So you want to make sure your knees are comfortable as you do this, as well as your hips and low back. And you'll simply let the knees release to one side. And you'll start to maybe feel a stretch in the outside or the upside hip and waist perhaps, and then back to center and over to the other side. So with the feet apart like this, the twist tends to stretch more into the hips, a little bit less in the spine. So going side to side, move at your own pace. If it feels good to, pause for a breath and really feel that bit of stretch as you go to the side. Feel free to pause. If it feels better to keep moving, then follow that instinct. Great. And then when you've gone side to side a number of times and you feel complete with that, you can bring your knees back to center. Bring your knees in toward your chest. And this time with one hand on each knee, moving the knees forward and back. So bring the arms straight, hands on the knees, and then bending the elbows to bring the knees in. If you want to coordinate your breathing here, inhale as the knees go away, you're making space for the breath. Exhale as you bring your knees in. Great. Now again, keeping one knee into the chest, it doesn't matter which because we'll do both. Bringing the other foot to the floor. And for this one, you can keep this leg bent. We straightened it last time, but if you do want a little more stretch, if you're ready for maybe a bigger step forward, you can straighten the leg on the ground while we work to stretch the back of this leg. So hands can come either behind the thigh here, or maybe not at all. You could grasp the hold of the side of your pants if you want to hold on, but can't easily reach around. And we'll bend and straighten the leg. Right, so having the leg that's not working, having that bent is going to be a little bit easier. Having it straight will be a bit more stretched. So you can decide. And then simply straightening and bending the leg that's up in the air. You want to go until you feel a bit of stretch, that first level, and then release. And then maybe if your body says yes, maybe next time you go +1 and then release. So each time you're asking your body, does it want to go deeper into that stretch or not? And some people really love the feeling of stretch, right? That it's almost painful, feels so good. You can hold the leg in the air if you like, circle the ankle around. That's maybe why I got into yoga, is I do love that feeling of stretch. It feels really good to me. And then I know others who, as soon as they feel a bit of stretch, the sensation is pain. That hurts. And we all have a little bit different sensation or awareness of pain in our bodies, or experience of pain, I should say. Press the heel toward the ceiling, but we still need to honor our pain. Right? Even if it comes quickly, we need to honor it because the body tenses up when there's pain. If you can relax and feel a little discomfort in the stretch, that's probably just fine. But we don't want to go until we feel a sense of pain or tightening up. You can bring that knee back into your chest and then bring the foot to the floor. And we'll work with the other side. So coming in, you can hold or not. And then moving the leg straighter. So we're allowing the thigh to come away from the body to straighten and then in toward the body as we release. Again, you can hold on or not. It doesn't really matter at this stage. You can get a good stretch just using the muscles of your legs to straighten. We don't need to pull the leg towards us. Maybe if we were at a later step, that would be helpful. And for here, if you can feel enough stretch and not hold on, great. And then maybe leave the leg in the air. Circle the ankle. Most of us have one leg that's tighter than the other. Probably, if you're like most people, you've done your easier leg first, as I did. So you might feel more sensation or more stretch on this side. Right. Maybe give that leg a little shake and bring the knee back in towards your body. And release. So now, if it's comfortable for you, go ahead and stretch both legs straight out. If that's not comfortable, just leave both knees bent. Try to relax your legs so your feet fall away to the sides. Take a moment to notice from your hips to your feet. What do you feel? What are you aware of? Are there any sensations that you can be present with, that you can be aware of? If there's discomfort or pain, notice that. If you can shift to be more comfortable, please do. And if there is any pain or tension or discomfort, notice that. But as always, don't dwell there. Let your mind wander and notice what else is there. What else are you aware of? A couple more breaths here. Okay, and then as you're ready, bend your knees again, bringing your feet back onto the ground. And you can bring your arms down alongside your body now. And so we'll do a little bit of opening again for the front of the body. And in this first one, we'll lift the arms straight up overhead, bringing them back behind you toward the floor. You can bend your elbows if that's more comfortable, or take them straight back, and then down. So we're working towards a pose called bridge pose. I think most of you are familiar with it. And this first step that we're doing, actually the first step we already did was lying down and bending the knees. In this step where we raise and lower the arms, it helps to bring a little more movement into the spine, a little more openness in the chest. And then letting the arms come down to your sides. We can also try the bottom half of the bridge pose, which is lifting the hips. Now you can bring these two together if you like. So as you press down into your feet, lifting the hips, and at the same time, extending the arms overhead, and then coming back, lowering down as you lower the arms. If it feels better for you to leave your arms down at your sides, you can just lift up with the hips and keep the arms relaxed. So we're charging up the legs a little bit, giving them a little bit of strength work, also opening the front of the hips again as we lift and then release. A few more at your own pace. Again, you can use the lifting of the arms as well as lifting of the hips, or just the hips, or just the arms too if you prefer. If it feels good, you can stay for a few breaths. And then as you're ready, slowly release down. Again, knees to chest, any movement that would feel good and help to stretch and release your low back after bridge. Taking your time. Beautiful. And then letting your feet come back to the floor. Well, let's reach the arms up and do a few circles with the wrists. You can try open hands, try fists. You can even try tucking your thumb in, but just be very gentle with that. Don't overstretch the thumb. So thumbs in or out, or hands open. Try it a few different ways. See what feels good. And then give your arms and hands a little shake. Shake, 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 shake. And then let them come to rest on the ground. And again, pause for a moment and observe. What are you aware of now in your arms, wrists, and hands, if anything? What sensations are present? What do you notice? And so let's roll over onto one side. Use your opposite hand to support you to come upright. And we'll come right around onto hands and knees. So take your time. All of the usual suggestions if you need extra padding under your knees or wrists, or if you want to be on your fists, or if you have those blocks handy, having the hands on blocks can be helpful, so that the fingers just curl around the blocks, and that can be a nice little bit of relief for the wrists. So whatever works for you. So here, taking a breath in and arching the back a little, and then rounding the back as you exhale. Tuck the chin right in. Inhale, soft elbows. Draw your shoulders back, chest forward. Careful that you're not cranking your head back here, and then release to round. If you like, you can add child's pose. And back to all fours. Wonderful. So we're going to transition to a standing forward bend. So on our first step to standing up, you can bring one foot under you, lift and bring the other under you, or however it works for you to get here. Some people like to step forward from downward dog, that's fine too. And then maybe bring your elbows onto your thighs, or wherever you're comfortable in a forward bend. Take a few breaths. Right, and then we'll come all the way upright slowly, and you can raise your arms as you lift. And then release down. So the very first step in doing the splits is literally to take a step. So one step forward. And if you're standing in mountain pose to begin with, and you take a step forward, you want your feet to be on parallel tracks. So not in front, one in front of the other. And you can decide how far apart your feet are by just sort of how it feels for, especially your back ankle. Right? You can turn your back foot out a little bit if you need to, just like you would for warrior. And then if you bend your front knee a little bit, notice how that back thigh gets a little more stretched. So you straighten and bend the front knee. It's actually opening up the front part of the back leg a little more. So try this, bend your front knee just so it's over your ankle. So you don't want to go past your ankle, which can put strain in your knee. And then from here, think about tilting the pelvis back a little bit. So bring your belly button back toward your spine, and think about your tailbone going down toward the ground. It's almost like you're taking this hip of your back leg and kind of pushing it a little forward until and you may not even need to do that to feel a stretch in the front hip. So we're just trying to access a little bit of stretch there, and try raising the arm on that side to really lengthen that whole line. Right, so in splits, one leg is back, one leg is forward. We're eliminating any stretch on the forward leg by just keeping it bent here. We're working on the back leg. Right, let's release. You can step onto your front foot and give that back leg a shake. Just shake it out. If you need to hold something to balance, do that. Come back to mountain pose. Notice, how does the front of one hip feel compared with the other? Do you feel a difference? You may not. It can be a very subtle stretch, and it can be a little bit challenging to access that feeling of stretch. So if you didn't quite get it, don't worry. Like, just being in that position is opening your body at least in a little bit of a way. So then we'll go to the other side. You can face the same way or the other way, it doesn't matter. Do the other foot though. So whichever foot was forward will be back, and vice versa. Again, you can take your back foot and turn it just enough so you're comfortable. And you need enough space between your two legs that when you bend that front knee, it is giving a bit of stretch to the back leg. So if your legs are too close together, you won't feel anything. Right? So you want to play around with that magic distance, how far apart, bending the front knee so it's over the ankle, maybe working with that little bit of a tilt with the pelvis so you're drawing the belly back. You're not clenching, but just tilting the pelvis back and down a little bit. Just a bit, just until you feel the stretch in the front part of that hip. You can try raising the arm on that side and lengthen. So press into the heel, reach up with the arm, and release. Great, you can step your feet back together and pause here. So again, notice, what are you aware of? Do your hips feel any different in the front part of the thigh, front part of the hip? Again, if the answer is no, that's okay. Some of these sensations can be just so subtle. Let's bend and straighten at the ankles, knees, and hips. Great, and then as you're straightening your legs this time, let the arms lift, breathing in. Bend the knees a little and let your upper body come forward over your legs, reaching toward the ground or toward your knees, coming up with the breath in. And again, coming forward. So if you're coordinating, breath, exhale forward and inhale up. Great, maybe one more here. Great, and then coming back down. So we worked a little bit what will be the back legs when we move towards our splits. Well, we're already moving towards when we move further towards. We're going to work a little more with the back of the legs now. I was going to say the back of the leg that will be in front, but they both will be because we'll do both. If you have a chair, you can use a chair for this one. If not, you can just bring your hands onto your front knee rather than onto the chair. I find it's a little bit easier with the chair because you're less inclined to push against the knee and hyperextend it. But if you just have a knee and no chair, then that will do. So step forward again, similar amount of space between your two legs. Similarly, turning the back foot out enough so that your heel can be down and you're comfortable. And hips are pointing in the same direction as your front foot. You can bend that front knee a little bit. We'll lift the arms, breathing in. So you might feel that extension in the back hip. Bringing your hands down to your chair, or again, it could be your front knee here. And you'll move your front leg more straight till you feel a stretch, and then you'll release and bend. So you'll move till you feel a stretch, and then bend. And just like when we were lying down, if you want a little more stretch and it feels right for you, you can add 1% more each time. If you don't feel much stretch here, try arching your back a little more. Okay, so if you round your back, you're shortening the muscles in the back of the leg and you won't feel as much stretch. So long, lifted spine, a tailbone tilting slightly up toward the sky, and you'll definitely get more stretch. If you like, you can stay for a few breaths at that place where it's just right. More stretch and you would start to tense up and feel like you had to resist. And less stretch would feel like not much is happening. Great, slowly release. You can bend that knee, lift up again into warrior, reaching the arms overhead and then releasing. And step the feet back together. Pause for a moment. And again, notice. How does the back of the one leg that we've just worked feel compared with the one that we haven't yet? And then we will do the other side. So you want to take that stance where one foot is forward, other foot is back, hips pointing forward. Back foot is anchored, turned out enough so that it can be fully on the ground. You can bend the front knee, lift the arms. Breathing in Exhale, come forward, hands to the knee or onto the chair. If your hands are on your knee, again, you want to be careful you're not pushing back and overextending or hyperextending your knee. So we're here bending, moving towards straight, but straight may not necessarily be your goal. That may not be your destination today. And remember, if you want to feel more stretch and your leg is straight, then you're going to tip your tailbone up a little, arch your back, and that will definitely give you a little more stretch, maybe a lot more stretch, maybe more than you need. So really listening, modifying, approaching that stretch, leaning into the stretch and releasing it. And then finding a place where you could stay for a bit, where it's just right on the edge a little of more would be too much, less would be not enough. Breathing. Let your breath create some space in your body. When you're ready, slowly again, bend that knee, press into your back foot, lift up with the breath in, and release. Stepping your feet back together, pause again and notice, what are you aware of now? Right, let's do a couple more forward bends again, and you can use your chair if you like to bring your hands to your chair, or you can reach for your legs or the ground or whatever is comfortable for you. So breathing in, you can lift the arms. If you're coordinating breath here, you exhale forward, inhale and lift. As always, if you prefer, you can move and breathe freely at whatever rate is right for you. Okay, coming forward this time, maybe stay for a few breaths. So if you're using a chair, you could even bring your elbows onto the chair perhaps. That might mean bending your knees a little bit more. Could be hands on the chair, could be reaching for your knees or ankles or holding your elbows over your thighs. So many options. Couple more breaths. And let's come up. So whenever you're ready, with a breath, and release. So if you're still in the forward bend, take your time. Whenever you come upright, and clear some space. So if you were using a chair, you might want to get it out of the way. Here's where if you had two chairs, you could place them on either side of your mat with the seat of the chair facing you, or using blocks. So we'll move through this sequence together. So you want to have a little bit of space behind you. So if you come a bit forward in your space or on your mat, just waiting, giving you a moment to get organized if you're not. And then we'll lift up, breathing in, and come forward. So you can bring your hands onto your legs, or here's where, if you have blocks or chairs, you can bring your hands there. And we're going to step back with one foot. Again, it doesn't matter which. You'll step back, and you'll lower that knee down to the ground. Now, anyone with knee issues, you're going to skip bringing your knee down. You can do this with the knee up. So we're going to be rocking back and forth. It's a little bit more intense if your knee is off the ground, or actually it can be more intense either way, depending on how you do it. So if your knee is down and you need more padding, fold your mat over or use a blanket to add some extra padding. You can have your blocks in any position that works for you, or like I said, holding onto two chairs can be a really nice way of doing this. So from this position, if you can come upright. So your whole body is over your back knee, right? And then from there, using your blocks to hold on to, or if you need to come to the ground or your chairs, you're gonna wiggle your front leg as straight as it will go. If it won't go all the way straight until you feel a stretch there. You can walk your blocks a little forward and let your weight come slowly forward, coming toward a lunge. And then we're going to shift back. So when you shift back, you want to make sure that your hip doesn't go back beyond your knee. So the further back your hip goes, the more strain you're going to end up on your knee here. So that's why we're moving the front leg a little forward, right? So we can come into a nice wide lunge and rock back. Come forward and rock back. So it is possible to do this with your hands on the ground, maybe on your fingertips. It's a little harder, maybe to get into the lunge. For some, it might be hands on one side. Really, the chair and the blocks really do make this a lot more manageable. And more aligned, I find. But, you know, you use what you've got. Great. Now, if it feels right for you, you can stay in the lunge for a couple of breaths. And if you're staying, very gently think about taking your front heel and as if you're going to pull your mat back. If I were to really do it, I could pull my mat, right? But I don't want to actually pull my mat. I just want to imagine I'm going to. And I imagine I'm going to pull my back knee a little forward. And that makes my legs really work. So see if you can find that action. The last couple of breaths here. And then when you're ready, shift your weight back onto your back knee. You can lift the toes of the front leg if you like. If you want a bit more stretch, you can either lower your head towards your knee or think about lifting your chest and arching your back a bit. Great, and then you can bring that leg back. Good, and then maybe come to child's pose or some version of child's pose for a few breaths. Maybe rock the hips a little one way, one side and the other. Right, and then when you're ready, we will do the other side. So, and this is another step towards doing the splits. So you come up to all fours with your hands on your blocks or on your chairs or whatever you've got, the ground if that's what you've got. You're going to bring the other leg forward now. And again, we're starting with the body over the back leg. Right? So my hips are over my knee, shoulders over my hips. I'm going to lean forward to take my blocks and walk that front leg forward. Right? And then it's quite a wide lunge. I'm going to rock forward and back. So go slowly, listen to your body. Perhaps your journey ended on the last step before this. That's fine. Going back all fours to child's pose, resting in child's pose, always going back to somewhere that feels good for you if what we're doing feels like too much. Like we're pushing our edges a little, coming out of our comfort zone perhaps a little, but we don't want to injure ourselves. We don't want to force our bodies. We really work with our bodies to relax and release. Muscles will when we're tense and we've gone to the end of our range of motions, our muscles are not going to stretch more just because we tell them to, right? So they're going to resist. They're going to do the opposite. You can stay in lunge a few breaths if that is right for you. Again, imagine pulling back with your front foot, forward with your back knee, and that's going to really make your legs work a little more. You're welcome to come out of this pose anytime. Great. When you're ready, shift back. Oh, we didn't do the other stretch, so you can bring your toes up. Stay here with a straighter front leg now, back hip over the back knee. Maybe leaning forward to get a little more stretch, or maybe looking at a little more arch and lift in the back. Okay, and then let's release. Come back. You can put your blocks aside for a moment. Come back to all fours and a little bit of cat-cow, or moving from all fours to child's pose. Wonderful. So there is one more step that we can take. There's probably about 20 more steps, but one more step that we could take on our journey towards the splits. This one is a little bit trickier. So if you were kind of at your edge with the last one, what I'm going to recommend is just repeat what we just did. You're going to get all that same nice stretching again. If that was already too much, maybe go back all fours to child's pose, or come up to warrior again. All right, so warrior is the same stretch, but smaller. So you can always come to warrior and play with warrior rather than being down. But if you're ready, or if you want to take the next step, or even if you just want to observe and maybe try it another time if you're not quite up for it now, but what you're going to do is you're either going to have a sock on your front foot, or you're going to take a blanket in front of your mat on the floor. If you're on the carpet, it doesn't work quite as well. And then you take that foot onto your blanket there. And just as we did before, moving the legs straighter, it's a little easier now because the blanket is sliding on the floor. And then what I'm going to do is just let the blanket slide forward with my leg. And then come back. So you don't want to go so far that you can't come back. Okay? But you're sliding your straight leg forward, sliding it back. So it's a little more stretch than when we were bending and straightening, right? It's the next step. It may be not one you're quite ready for, so please listen. You can try both sides in your own time. So again, you're sliding forward and drawing back. Just finding a nice, comfortable stretch and then coming back. And when I say comfortable, right, we already talked about how that means different things for different people. When your body tenses up, you know that's more stretch than it can tolerate. Okay, when you feel complete with that side, again, releasing. You can move your blocks aside. We are done with the splits. So if you like now, a little movement, all fours to child's pose, cat-cow, and then maybe taking the knees apart. So do a little movement if that feels good for you, maybe circling the hips. And when you're ready to come to child's pose, if you're ready, if you want to come to child's pose, you'll take the knees apart for this version. And then head can rest on your hands or on the ground or on a block. And you're breathing here. Try to let your lower back receive the breath. Let your hips and pelvis open and expand. Receiving the breath, and as you exhale, soften wherever there's holding or tension. And if you're not comfortable, please just come onto your back anytime. If you're still in child's pose, Think about slowly emerging, gradually swinging your legs around, and eventually coming back onto your back. And you can bring your hands onto your body, knees bent. So the position that we started in today, and coming back to your breath, back to the feeling of the ground beneath you. Back to the movement of your breath, coming and going. And then taking the arms away from the body a little bit, we'll come back into a really nice, easy, gentle twist. And here I invite you to try it with your legs a little closer together and see how that feels. You can always experiment and go further apart again, but maybe noticing how it's different from the twist we did earlier. So if you keep your legs side by side, you don't have to go all the way down, just wherever it works for you. Back to center. To the other side, you can even let the feet stack one on the other. See what that feels like, and if it feels good to you, stay with it. If it felt more natural, felt better, felt like a nicer stretch for you, you can try the way we did earlier with the legs apart. So play with that twist. There's lots of different ways of doing the twist. I've just offered you 2 possibilities, but if there are others that you feel aligned with and want to bring into your practice today, be absolutely free to do so. And eventually, taking your time, making your way back to the center. And one more time, we're going to bring the knees up into the chest, moving forward and back with the knees. Any other movement that you might appreciate, circling, rocking, hugging. And then releasing your feet. And then finding whatever position you want to be in for Shavasana. So if you choose to lie down, you might just stretch out or get a blanket or whatever might be helpful. And if you prefer to sit, that is always an option. So making sure you've got a comfortable cushion or blanket to sit on. And you want to make sure that you're going to be warm enough. Even though it's a nice day for most of us today, may not be when you're watching the recording, but even on a nice day when we've been working a little bit with the body, we tend to, especially when we lie down, to cool down. Get what you need, get comfy. Let your body start to soften and sink down into the earth. Feel that as you exhale, your body continues to drop, to melt, to release. If it helps, you can open your mouth, make a little sigh or hum as you exhale. Noticing if you brought any tension anywhere into your body through the practice with the effort, with the challenge. And can you now soften? Let that go. There's no effort required now. Let your jaw release and all the muscles of your face relax, your forehead, around your eyes. Down into the throat, neck. Relax your shoulders, the front and the back, the upper arms, lower arms, wrists and hands. Exhale and let go. Relax your rib cage. Let the breath move with ease, with no effort on your part. As much as possible, let the breath be breathed through you as you stay passive and relaxed. Relax your belly, your lower back, your hips. Let the pelvis drop, the thighs release. You feel the front of the thighs, the back of the thighs, the inner and outer thighs, softening all around, dropping through the kneecaps, the calves, ankles, right to the tips of your toes. Feel your body on the earth. With each exhalation, melting a little bit more. So every journey begins with one first step. And the chant I'll share with you today is about clearing the way or paving the way to take that step, like passing through a portal into a new realm. When we make that commitment to take our first step toward whatever our goal is. Om Gananandva Ganapati Gunhavamahe Kavim Kavinamupamashravastamam Jyeshthara Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Anashrinvan Nutibis Sida Sadhanam Shri Maha Ganapataye Namaha. Start to become aware of the edges of your body, the outer edges of your body, the skin, where you interface with the world. As you let the breath get a little deeper now, and that's if you choose to emerge from Shavasana. If you want to stay longer, just go ahead and stay. Otherwise, letting the breath deepen, stretching your skin with your breath, expanding your energy into the area around you. You can start to wiggle your fingers and your toes. Moving, stretching as you're ready, in whatever way would feel good. And if you choose to come back to sit, first roll to your side and then slowly make your way back upright. Bringing your hands together at your heart. So everything we do on the mat is like a little miniature world of what we do in life. And so I encourage you to take a first step. If there's some larger goal that seems unattainable, like the splits, but in your life, and we never know what we're actually capable of until we try. And so I encourage you to figure out what is the very smallest step you can take in the direction of your goal, and take that one small step. Namaste.